Like, I didn't try to take a song on this album that didn't actually happen to me. I just didn't want to do that this time.
Hello and welcome to Where the Living Room Used to Be, a podcast about Rhode Island's music scene.
I'm Nick Ryder, and I play guitar and sing and harmonica and adapter.
My name is Christopher Roy, and I play drums and adapter.
It's true.
It's all true. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Well, thank you guys for doing this. The focus of tonight is to talk about your new record, No Comfort, that came out on October 30th. It's available digitally right now, but you're also taking pre-orders for the vinyl of this, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. But yeah, I guess we'll start with you, Nick. You are the primary songwriter of Adapter. Band started in 2014, correct?
Yep.
Can you talk just kind of quickly about starting this band and what some of your influence was, the sound that you're looking to achieve with it and everything like that?
Well, at the time, I just kind of wanted to be in a band again, and I was trying to join blues bands, and there wasn't a lot of opportunities, and it kind of became like, I'll make my own. And without really having a band, I told my uncle I did, and he gave me a show the following week, and I went and played it. At our first few, I would make audience members or other musicians on the bill kind of fill in. And
what do you mean? Bring them up to
hence adapter.
Oh, okay.
It was literally I don't know. The first bunch of shows were kind of like that. I would kind of show up and I didn't have a band, but I would usually play more than one set. But I wanted a full band and just to play harmonica. But again, it's hard to find people who like that kind of music, and I ended up with a drummer, and as a duo, we were able to just do a lot and work really quickly. Within 6 weeks, we had an EP out and kind of started playing a lot of shows. So mostly always kind of stayed that way. Again, sometimes it's hard to even to find one guy to play with, but I kind of roped Chris into it earlier this year. Now he's doing
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's your history, Christopher? What you play drums in this band? How long have you been playing, and how long have you known Nick?
I've known Nick for probably about 15 years. Around 18, I met him. I'm 33 now. So, we started playing music almost immediately, being friends. He was the drummer in the first band I played in, which is a metal band, and I played guitar. And, he had a band at the time, too, that we both played shows in. And,
metal bands at the time.
Yeah. And around the same time, because he was the drummer in my band, and the drum set was left at the basement I always hung out at, I started picking up the drums and playing around a lot of basic metal stuff, blast beats and double bass and just obnoxiousness, play as fast as I could,
Yeah.
And, I just started gaining a tract for it and acquired a drum set. And I played in another band called the Heat Sticks, which was a rockabilly band. And that's where I kind of really was okay, now you're a drummer in a band and you're not just jamming anymore. And I was with two of my friends who also still play music. Then I spent 6 years playing drums in Cactus Attack with all my best friends. And that was really great, a lot of touring and stuff. And I got a lot of real lot of experience playing drums in an atmosphere. Didn't take lessons. I do, have I feel like a want to kind of like go back and be like, I really should learn some of these, basic building blocks of drums. And so, I look forward to kind of like exploring that more now that I play more. But yeah, and after Cactus Attack, I kind of took like maybe a year off right around the pandemic. And then Nick asked me to play, and he had a kit. So I was like, yeah, sure, come jam. And we've been playing since what, like March?
Yeah, pretty much.
Ish. Yeah, and yeah, just jamming at his house, and just to start writing an album. And now we're just kind of like keeping it going,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's about a quick history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, even just what you had mentioned, I didn't know that early history of the band, but that's incredible that you just started playing in March, and then this album was recorded, the new album, No Comfort, was recorded in August, correct? Is that, or sometime around then, or?
We started
Between a
sessions
few months.
in May, I think.
May? So
Yeah,
even
started early as May.
Don't
It was
slow us
May.
down,
I
James.
mean,
We were
like-
even quicker than that. Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't like a weekend effort as much as it was like we would book studio dates to kind of like put it together piece by piece.
Yeah. How much of the record did you have written when you brought Christopher on, Nick? Did you write it sort of collaboratively, or did you kind of have the record done and you just said, put some drums on this,
Well, I thought I had it done, and then what we had kind of changed. Like, initially,
Okay.
I did have a very, like, I kind of hit up Chris and was like, yo, I want to make a new album, and I don't have a drummer right now, but I thought I had everything mapped out. It's just, we had a very different chemistry, and some things we were better at. Like, there were things I thought we were gonna do, and then what we came up with was better. And just the more we played, like, so it was kind of funny because, like, for instance, there were a couple of like newer songs I think that Chris wasn't as into, and then I showed him some older songs that he liked more. Like Lizzy's Revenge was actually a much older song.
Okay. Yeah, I dig that one. Yeah, that's awesome.
And Coffin Shaker, I've actually been playing for years, and I never really had a drummer that learned it. So it kind of became like, what things do I have lately that would be better with this lineup? And also, what can we take from the past and kind of like beef it up again? Again, the song Tell Me a Lie is actually on our second album, Redeemer. And it's one of the only songs I've ever wanted to record. And kind of like, it became very obvious that we should redo this song. So it was kind of like a half and half. Like, I think what the album was going to be and what the album turned out to be was very different. It also had a different title. It was going to have different artwork. It kind of had different everything at one point, to be honest, I think.
Yeah, okay.
There was like a week where like a lot of things changed. And we just kind of were like, all right, new ideas, and started kind of building from there. But really, I think for the better, I'm really happy with everything so far. And, physical copies, it's just going to be the same thing. I'm going to be like, it's going to be brand new again, and I'm going to listen to it all over again, and yeah.
I do remember reading a post actually as I was researching this, that it was like the first day and you already had some surprises with, what was kind of going on. Was that, I guess you were just kind of mentioning it, but was it just like taking things in a new direction that was there? Or, I'd love to get into working with George at Galilee. Like, was it from input from him of like, I've recorded a lot.
George is the man.
Yeah.
You haven't heard it. You've heard it from me.
But yeah, like what was that? Like, what were some of those things that changed during the recording process of this?
Some of them were things we were told to change.
Oh,
and
yeah?
Well, like, for instance, we were going to do a cover of She's Gone by Hound Dog Taylor, because I'd been playing that song for a long time, and I had a really slow, heavy version that I wanted to have as, like, the last track on an album, and it was going to be. And at the time, we were kind of, like, working over what was going to be on the album. We planned on doing that, and I hit up a friend of mine, Matt, he plays in the blues band GA20, if you've heard of them, just to talk a little bit about, like, covers and licensing and this and that. And he was like, "Oh, what song are you going to do?" And I was like, "She's Gone" by Hound Dog Taylor. And he was like, "Oh, we just recorded that. It's our next single." And it was kind of like, uh-oh, because, like, they're really good. And, like, I love GA20, but I also didn't want to compete with them or attempt, or, like, it just seemed like a weird thing. And then we were also, when we started making this album, we were working with a label. And one of the things that Matt said was like, "Well, talk to your label about it." And when I brought it up, he was like, "Well, you really shouldn't do that song, especially if they're doing it and if you have to license it." And I literally said to Chris, like, "What's another way to say She's Gone?" And he said, "Lady No More." And I wrote the new lyrics in like a few minutes, and it was like, okay, it's an original song now.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of just slow it down a lot and give it a whole new feel. Yeah, kind of ironically came up with it. It ends up being like something that sticks, I guess.
And that was going to be the title track of the album, too. And
we were going to call the album that, yeah.
Yeah, and we had like a whole concept that we kind of came up for the artwork, and I hired the artist who did our last album cover, Mehdi, who's from Indonesia. And it was just like, the first draft he did was a little, like, different than a lot of the stuff he did. And just wasn't really total, like, he's an amazing artist. It just, it almost didn't look like his style.
He's a great artist.
When we tried to work with him on it, though, he ended up getting COVID, and we almost weren't able to really communicate. It was hard to understand his situation. And I tried to, like, be graceful with it, but to be honest, like, we didn't have an album cover until the week pretty much the album got submitted to the record company. Because, again, like, I hired this guy for like a week in May, and in August we still had no cover. And literally, like, as a last ditch thing, I think it was like a Wednesday morning, I literally typed in on Instagram, or no, just on Google, like, album art, cover art for sale, album art for sale. The first thing that came up is the cover we use. Like, it was kind of like, I typed it in and that image came up, and I was like, geez, like, I'd buy any record with that freaking cover on it. And I hit the guy up right away, and he was so helpful and so, like, just was willing to answer all of my questions and really work with me. But again, it kind of became like, what do we call the album if the cover doesn't look like Lady No More, and we don't even have, like, the concept anymore? And
we didn't write it with, like, space in mind or anything, so.
No, like, it just really looked good. But I sent the artist the song titles, and he said he thought No Comfort was the best one to fit that vibe. And to be honest, he ended up having a lot of input and really kind of, like, helped guide me through parts of the process. Like, when he sent me the cover, it was a very big, long, blank thing. Like, it was a gatefold, so it had both sides. And again, I was kind of like, well, one has to be the front and one has to be the back. And he did a lot more editing than I thought he'd be willing to do. And again, not knowing much about producing a record, him and George were kind of the two guys who knew the most about it. And when it actually came time to like design and create the vinyl, they ended up kind of helping me with a lot of it. Like I was asking them so many questions that they were like, why don't you just give us the login information and we'll do it?
Oh, okay.
And to be honest, I was like lucky that happened, because I was like, I'm going to screw something up, because again, we were working with a label and then we weren't.
There's a lot of meticulous details and the like
there was
the
a lot of
ordering.
things I didn't know about.
Yeah. He was asking me a lot of it, and I was like, I have no idea, man. It sounds like a lot of math and dimensions, and
it was a new thing for both of us.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Once you kind of get into all of that stuff, and it's a whole new world that goes on, like behind the scenes of
Kunaki is responsible for all my albums, which is very easy format system. You're right. I've never done vinyl before. This is our first vinyl.
I've made a lot of CDs, and I did like a 7-inch a few years ago, but it was a lathe cut, and those are pretty cheap, and it was a small pressing, but that was the thing, is at the beginning of this year, I really was like, I only want to make this album if it's a vinyl. Like, I'm not really sure why, but that was kind of my main motivation as like a musician, was I want to have a 12-inch record with my music on it, because I never had. And it seemed like this is a real thing, and it's a real step these days. Like, it shows a level of dedication.
That was definitely sweeten the deal for me joining, I think. It was just like the idea of being like, oh, wow, I could be a part of that this year. Wow. So.
Yeah, I mean, that brings up a couple of things. I mean, and I appreciate it as well, of just physical media, something that I've kind of had my drive behind over the last couple of years, of just whatever else it is, doing tapes or, lathe cuts or just something, just so that it's not just digital. Because it's, for me personally, I've said it time and time again, it's like this weird, like it's not fully real when it's just like a download, I guess,
it could just,
I know that it is, but it's like, oh, like when someone's like, oh, my new record's out, it's like, where is it? It's like, it's only on Spotify. Again, it's like, oh, all right, well, like, can I buy it?
That could disappear one day. You never know.
Yeah.
I like Bandcamp, but I do think, like, for me, I buy records and I buy CDs. It's only in the last couple of years that, to try to cut down, I stream sort of just because, like, well, you really shouldn't buy everything, dude. But to be honest, again, there is something missing. But I do think, like, me personally, I like Bandcamp. I like the way it's set up. I've actually been using it since 2009. And I tell a lot of people, I don't think there's a streaming site that was around back then besides them that still is. I might be wrong, but I seem to be using it before a lot of people were aware of it. And the interface hasn't changed. Like, what you see when you go on an album is the same design now as it was then. And there's something pleasing about it to me. Like, it looks cool. It responds well. You do kind of feel like you're in like an open version of like, it's not like Spotify where it's like, it almost doesn't even look like the album. You can actually tell that the band had an input and they made it look this way on purpose. And I think that goes a long way.
Yeah.
I also think growing up with physical media is like a big part of like nostalgia and just like kind of keeping that going and that industry alive of like physical releases, and not being able to just like get anything you want on the internet. Can't download a t-shirt. So, t-shirts will sell, vinyl will sell, and it's, you kind of have to think about that, and like, it's good to have, you have it for however long you have it, it's not on a phone that can die, or,
If you have it, you'll definitely have it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm also like a nerd for all of like the limited edition stuff, like the,
me too.
I grew up in like the punk and hardcore scene. So it's like, oh, this one is, like 50 were on black and 75 were on clear, or whatever else it is. Like, I'd nerd out about all that kind of stuff. So I think that it's cool. But I'd love to hear a little bit more about.
That's definitely Nick.
Yeah, well, Nick is showing his CD collection here, which is quite massive.
I got a couple of records.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. But so what are you doing for the vinyl? Can you talk a little bit more about the design for that? Because it sounds like it's, you're able to expand upon that as well. Are there any...
This vinyl is going to be sick. That's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like multicolor, randomized,
it's so secret.
Physical wax.
Exclusive. We don't even know what colors they are.
It kind of fits into the space idea of 8 songs, 8 planets, maybe. I thought of that after though, like that wasn't planned.
Pluto is.
And then kind of the vinyl maybe looking like your own little planet. That's something people can maybe get into,
It's your own,
and plus it's got cool music on it,
Vinyls are the exact shape of the Earth, and they're just as flat too.
Now, you heard it here first.
Absolutely.
Nick thinks that we live on a flat Earth.
The rumors are true.
Yeah.
Every rumor is true about us.
We are flat Earth blues.
Yeah. But as the artwork expanded, like the artists that you're working with, is there additional pieces that tie into that astronaut piece that's there?
He did add some labels, the labels look pretty cool, but basically it's like the front and the back cover, it's
cool.
It's not a gatefold, it's a single sleeve jacket, and every record will be a random color. It's kind of cool. The plant we did it through, we actually wanted to have a white vinyl, and it was really expensive to get white, but it wasn't expensive to get black. And they were like, we have an option. You can do this eco mix thing where we use the recycled inks from other pressings that didn't get used, and you end up with a random color variant for every record. And it was kind of
that's cool.
Well, I honestly think that's kind of like a selling point, because again, usually, and we're not charging more for it, but most of the time colored vinyl costs like a couple bucks more, but because I paid the same amount as black, because they kind of passed that on to me, we're selling them for what we would sell black vinyl for. And every single copy will be a random, unique color. So no two will be alike, which I think is kind of cool.
Definitely.
I'm definitely keeping one.
I'm going to open all of them and pick out the best one for myself.
Take all the cool ones.
Yeah.
Typically, I got this dirty toilet water brown one that I'll give to my enemies.
Yeah, exactly.
They're gonna look like Jelly Bellies or like the jelly beans. This one's popcorn and burnt looking.
I love the popcorn.
It's got yellow. Looks like a tooth.
I am kind of, I do hope I don't open mine and this looks, I don't want this one. But
can we trade?
I don't think most, if they're using inks from pressings that got made, I doubt somebody was I'm going to get, most people don't design their records to be ugly or off-putting unless they're I mean, I have had some vomit brown vinyls that actually smelled bad, and I've had I had a record that had worms in the jacket, stuff like that, but I don't think it's going to be
insane.
Quite so off-putting. Yeah, I have a lot of weird stuff in my collection.
Yeah.
I got an album with a razor blade one time that said "Kill Yourself" on it. We don't have anything like that. It doesn't come with anything like that.
Yeah.
Just some colors.
Yeah. Maybe a note says thanks, Yeah.
There's a bullet in every vinyl package just for you.
Yeah.
But I'd love to talk about
outer space.
Talk about what's on the record. Can we get a little bit deeper into the album itself, the sound of it? I guess I'm also just kind of curious. This is a Rhode Island music podcast. Rhode Island has a pretty long lineage of blues music from 60s, 70s. Is any of that stuff ever influenced you? Like, Ken Line, Tombstone, like Killer Kane, the harmonica player, like any of those
Neil
people?
and the Vipers, for sure.
It's funny.
Oh yeah.
We actually lost the motif thing to Neil and the Vipers, but they are a great band.
Graciously lost.
Graciously
happy to be mentioned next to them.
But
yeah.
To be honest, like I like Paul Jeremiah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's a lot of, like, I don't know, the Rhode Island blues scene. Like, to be honest, I'm not part of it. Like, I've never really felt like I was. And to be honest, like, blues fans don't like our music. Like, I kind of wanted this to be a blues band, but again, like, coming from a heavy background, my music is heavy. But it was always my intention to kind of be authentic and play blues. But somewhere along the lines, I realized it was better to kind of just be myself. But again, when you market yourself over and over toward blues bands and blues fans, like, I'd hate to say it, but they're some of the most elitist people I've met. And it is kind of strange. Like, the only time I've ever had shows where they put
blues
their
is
fingers
serious
in their
business.
Or, like, people boo. Like, if we play a blues show, it's not good. I don't really get why. I mean, Chris, remember we played that thing in Hyannis over the summer, and that guy afterward was like, "Oh, I run a blues show, and I'll put you on the radio, but you guys gotta get softer. Like, you can't do what you're doing." And it was kind of like,
he came up with like an agenda to kind of like let us know that, like, you guys could be great, but there's a few things that I would critically change. And I think upon just hearing the things he wanted to change, we were kind of just like, well, that's what we're going for. So, like, thanks, man. I mean, any conversation like that, you kind of go, yeah, dude, cool. Thanks. Well, thanks for coming up. He did say some nice things. He did, he did appreciate like what we were doing as much as he was like, like, I would have told that joke this way. You know what I mean? And it's like, thanks, man.
Again, it was almost like a backhanded compliment, but a compliment, I guess.
It was just kind of like, he was just kind of like young manning us, I think. Just kind of being like, this is how it's done, and, I respect that. I understand where that comes from, I'm sure he's been playing longer than I've been alive, and I respect that for sure. But also, like, hey, man, I'm sure someone said that to you when you were my age, and you were kind of just like, sure thing, man. And kept going on,
Like,
so.
A big thing, at least I think, like, people want this kind of music to remind them of something specific. And if it doesn't, they don't think of it that way.
Yeah.
Like,
I do enjoy the feedback, though.
Well, definitely. Like, it's just, there are a lot of great, like, I'm really into Voodoo Rhythm Records from Switzerland, and they have all these blues bands and duos that don't sound like your dad's blues band. Like, and they show that this isn't a genre so much limited to doing one thing as it's about a feeling. And you can take that feeling and play almost anything with it if it's real. But again, a lot of people, like if you're not playing a certain song, they don't want to hear it. And it's kind of like, we had a lot of covers and a lot of standards, and a lot of them turned into originals. And it was like, that's almost a turn off to a lot of those types of things.
Yeah.
And I kind of, like, to be honest, I'm not trying to sound condescending to them, but it is weird. Like, I've been trying to sell myself as a blues musician for about 8 years. And it was only earlier this year that, I mean, with Chris in the band and us being like real friends and having a connection, we were kind of like, we're not really a blues band. We're more like some heavy stoner blues duo. And it was kind of like, yeah, I guess you're right. And
well, we both came from metal bands starting out. And, I think just kind of like having a natural want to kind of do whatever you want. I think any genre has like its gatekeeping areas where people are like, you got to do it this way. You got to do it this way. And, I think anyway, any band I've ever been in, I've kind of like gathered afterwards, like, yeah, man, no one was doing it like that then, you know what I mean? And it's like, did it, and the music came out that way because we just ended up doing what we wanted instead of like referring to the rule book after writing every song and making, well, does it have this? Well, it's got to have that if it's going to be a blues song. And it's like, no, man, just write the song. Like, we'll feel it out, you know.
There happened.
I think like
I kind of shut. Like even you had some things where you said to me like, "Don't get trapped in the blues. Like you don't have to check off every box." Like
I think I just have like a natural want to rebel against like, you know. Oh, I'm not allowed to do that? Cool. Well, that's definitely what I'm going to do now, you know. And
I'm doing it twice now. Yeah,
exactly. And it's not out of spite as much as just like, why can't I do it? Like, I feel it. I like it this way. It's good enough for me.
It took me a long time to have that mindset myself. Again, I've always, like, it is a strange thing with Adapter is that we've almost always been more well known across the country and in other countries than we are in New England. And I've always kind of been adamant about wanting to get into this scene in this area more because I like playing shows and I really just wanted to play better shows. But at a certain point, I did realize, like, if you're trying too much to fit into one box, it doesn't look cool. It doesn't look right. It doesn't seem like it was just a very, like, I don't know, not to say like fuck the blues, but we were sort of like, fuck the blues. Let's do what we want to do and be who we want to be. And to be honest, the reaction to this album has been more amazing than anything I've done. And I do think it's because I didn't try to tell people this is what it is. This is what it is. I kind of just let people, like, it's a heavy blues record. I don't tell people it sounds like this or it sounds like this. I don't tell people it's punk or it's doom or it's metal, because that is a thing. Like, we get called a lot of things. We get called a lot of things that aren't blues. Like, to be honest, a lot of people will tell me straight up, you're not a blues band, you're a punk band. And that's not really like a bad thing. It's just everybody has different ears. And again, I realized that that's a good thing too. Like, I used to kind of be more elitist about, you got to hear this way. But like, I think it's kind of interesting to be in a band that people hear in different ways, because not a lot of people use the term blues metal, or like, I often hear terms to describe our music that don't seem super common. So I think that's kind of cool. If people are saying things about it that are different from everybody else, I think that's actually helps you stand out a little bit.
But yeah, I mean, with this record, it's cool to hear the response to it. I read the article that Rob DeGay did. You know, he kind of mentioned that in that article.
Yeah, that was really nice.
This was
shout out Rob DeGay.
Rob, that's this is maybe a more, I don't even know if you said like more personal record or just more upfront personal. Like it seems that some of the other records that you've done have had that, but you've kind of masked them a little bit. This one you've kept it out there and been more
it's hard.
Free with it, you know, of just like, this is who I am, this is what I'm feeling type stuff. Is that correct?
It was a conscious decision. Like, you pretty much, like, you noticed it, a lot of people noticed it, because it is it's there. But
Mm-hmm.
again, I'm a cancer survivor, and I've gone through a lot in the last couple of years, and I've learned a lot about like life in general and my life. And I realize that it's like, if you want to say something, you have to say it now.
Mm-hmm.
And if you really feel something, you shouldn't be around the bush. You should come out and say how you feel and what you think. And sometimes those are the hardest things to say and listen to. But to be honest, like at our shows lately, like I can see the look in some people's eyes that they feel things differently. And they say things to me that I didn't hear before, like in regards to our message and our lyrics. And I think that's important because, again, if people can relate to it and it helps them, that's a good thing. And again, like, especially if you're a cancer survivor, listen to this album, because I don't know how many blues guys made an album about that. I know a lot of them had those kinds of problems, but it's something I try to, like, again, it's weird saying the word cancer into a microphone, but I did it on the record because I felt like I had to, and I didn't want to beat around it at all. And I do think that kind of came out in almost every song. Again, some of them weren't the
Kind of
newest
purge
track.
it.
It was trying to like take the most real things and try to take songs. Like, I didn't try to take a song on this album that didn't actually happen to me. I just didn't want to do that this time. I kind of wanted it to be apparent and more obvious. And I especially think with the people who've heard our stuff before, this record hit them differently because of that. Because there weren't any robots and there weren't any vampires. I mean, there's coffins and stuff. But
Coffins and Stuff is my favorite song.
Coffins and stuff.
Yeah.
Coffin flop.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's cool, and yeah, I mean, all art, all music, the more that you can, at least for me, again, from my own personal experience, I grew up in more like the emo punk scene as well, you know, so like just the honest, like hard on the sleeve, like this is what I'm feeling, can resonate, you know, and
Very much.
you know, I'm so happy to hear that you're doing well, and everything with that. I mean, that's yeah. I mean, that's just that I'm glad that you're able to make this record, obviously, you know. But
me too. It wasn't
yeah. You're like, thanks, James, but
Going for it, yeah.
but it just, you know, it can be important. Just, you know, pain is universal, and if you can kind of just share these things, and there's other people, like whether or not it's another blues artist or another, you know, whatever genre artist that you want to,
Someone
you know,
can relate.
like someone is going to hear this, and
Hopefully,
and,
yeah,
and you never know who needs to
interesting.
hear that and when they need to hear it, you know. Like I mean, for me, cancer has touched my family as well, and it's just like losing someone to that is horrible.
Most people
you know,
have
so.
some kind of frame of reference of it. Like, it's part of our society. And again, a thing I've learned is there's tons of people around us that we know that have it, and we don't know it because not everybody can even talk about it, and not everybody can be honest about it. And again, that was really just something I wanted to put out, that like, you can be honest, or I'll be honest for you. I'll say these things for you. Like, you can believe in this for yourself. But I wanted to put that out there for a lot of people because it has been something that happened to me a lot in the last couple of years. More people coming to me and talking to me about the problems they had. And again, some of them are open about it and some of them aren't. But like, that was a thing. Like, I was like, I'm going to take my music and make it about this. As brutal and negative as that seemed, it seemed like the best way to deal with it. And even I think Chris had said something at one point like, hey, you wanted to be a blues man and now you got all this shit that happened to you, so sing about it. And it was
Yeah, man, you wanted to be a blues man, so like you got your blues.
Yeah, I did realize it. Like, that's something I read a lot growing up. Like, you'd read things with like the older guys when they toured England, and they would talk about the young bands who opened up for them and say things like, these kids want the blues. I don't understand how these animals and these yardbirds, they want the blues so bad. Like, what the hell's wrong with them? Why would anybody want this? And I never understood that. Like, because again, I wanted to be that. But it is kind of true. Like, when you seek out to be that thing and you become it, it becomes a really heavy thing. Somebody said to me recently,
you listen to an old band like Howlin' Wolf or something. you hear the the pain, the hurt.
How many more years are you gonna rape my life? He says that, and it's like, whoa, like, what are you talking about, dude? And he was talking about something. He was talking about something that happened, and he said it in that brutal of a fashion. But I think that's what part of it is about, getting it out. Because I don't know, the more you lie about things, the less you're able to deal with them. It's like some people's, what you see of them is not real. Like, some people mask everything. We all do sometimes. But, like, again, if you're never yourself, that's weird. And if you're hiding something because you're ashamed of it, or you think other people aren't going to understand, screw that. Like, let it out and be yourself. If you're not hurting someone, there's not really, you shouldn't care what these people think. You should just do it. And I've had a lot more of that mentality this year than almost ever before. And it doesn't.
Everyone go release a vinyl now. Go out and do it, man. Go make vinyl.
Make your record. Actually, you better do it. I read if you don't make a record in the next 3 months, it won't come out until 2023. So get on it. Make a record now.
Dodge that bullet.
Yep. We worked pretty quick. Admittedly, that was the thing we were criticized for, was working too quickly, making the album too fast.
Oh, really?
That's interesting to hear.
Who said that? Like, from people that are fans of the band, from who?
Well, it was more of like when we were working with different people and trying to get different ideas about it. Like, it just, I mean, that has kind of been a thing before. Like, because I do tell people that when I say I'm going to do something, I really do usually do it. And a lot of times, if I'm like even with this band, there were times I didn't have a drummer, and it was like, well, I'm going to go play this show because I'm just going to go do it. If I say I'm going to do something, I usually do. So I wasn't like, I wanted to make this record this year, and I wanted to have it done by August. And that's what we did. And it was like, you know what I mean? I think we spent more studio time on it than most of the releases we've made, but like, it was very much like, hey, I have a new drummer and it's Chris. And then before people even knew it, we were already making an album, and we'd already played a handful of shows, and it's already done. So, like, again, I don't think productivity and being efficient is necessarily a bad thing, but some people will say that, like, rushing things, you make more mistakes.
It takes a lot longer with 5 members, I imagine, you know.
That is a thing I tell people. Like, if you only have one guy to look at and one line of communication, things can move. Like, again, even when I started this band, within 14 months, we had 2 CDs, and we played about 100 shows in 10 states.
We did go back and change some things, too. So, like, there was we weren't trying to rush through it as much as we were like, we want to be satisfied with what we get. And George was the one who worked quick, if anything, I think. Like, I think George is he just knows his stuff, and we could be literally talking about the things we wanted to change, and George would just be like,
it already happened.
And we'd be hearing it different. And he's like,
okay, like he would shift it in the...
He is just that good. And it was really interesting to work with in that sense of just being like, wow, this guy is listening, understanding, and kind of like, you know, there would be times where he, would be like, I'll be honest with you, I think it should be this way, or maybe this would sound cooler.
He really doesn't pull punches. Like, But again,
And
that can be a good thing.
all for the
You need
best, I think. You know, I appreciate that kind of honesty, and I do enjoy criticism. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to learn as much as anyone else, and so yeah,
there are
Yeah.
some people you should listen to, and
yeah, you can't
that
rebel
was
against
actually
everything.
fun.
You know,
I mean, I know that you played multiple parts on this, Nick. I mean, you played bass and then you did harmonica, but for the main recording, was this done live, or did you do the drum tracking and then come in and do your guitars and vocals and everything like that? Like,
Well,
how did you guys actually record this with George?
again, a lot of people will tell you over and over that you can't make an album without a metronome these days. But I'm going to say I haven't used a metronome on an album in a long time. And we recorded the basic tracks with me playing guitar and singing with Chris. And that's the bedrock of the entire album.
Oh,
Is
like all
those,
together, like you just did it live with
we
that,
just
like that was your
we jammed, we plugged in, and like yeah,
nice.
I went back and redid the vocals. I
Yeah,
redid my harmonicas. I added
yeah,
the bass, but admittedly, like most of the guitars were in the scratch track.
yeah.
And that's another thing is like George is pretty like a lot of people have been asking me about the tone and the guitars on this album. People think it's multi-tracked or this and that. It's one guitar with one amp and no effects pedals. It's just it sounds like that for some reason. But part of it is that's what he did. But
That's
again,
cool.
he kind of was striving for reality, and he would say over and over, I'm trying to make you guys sound like you guys. And
Mm-hmm.
that was a big thing. Like
yeah.
I wanted
He gave
to
us a lot of credit, which was
reality.
strange. He's like, you're making all the stuff. I'm just putting it together. I mean, he's a wizard. He's a great time working with him. It's really easy. Anybody should go
I don't
record
really
with
like
him.
being in the studio, but I like working with George because again, we
He's
have
very
things in
comfortable and
common.
easy.
We have a good rapport.
Mm-hmm.
He's just a fun guy to hang out with.
Yeah.
He sure
And
is.
you can learn
So
a
yeah,
lot. Like I try to learn as much as I can, and there are some people you should listen, and he's one of those types of people.
nice. Yeah, so I mean, everyone that's listening, check out Galilee Productions.
Check out Galilee Productions.
It's
if you're
it's
in
in
this
Cumberland, right?
business,
Cumberland, Rhode Island, right?
yeah, pretty much
Yeah,
every good album that comes out around here is recorded there. Shout out to
Yeah,
to the
Viking
Sonics. Their new
Jesus.
album is there. It's really good. Viking Jesus' new album is there.
They got a
To be
vinyl out.
perfectly honest, as a kid playing in metal bands, I would often notice that my friends' bands or the bands we were playing with were going there. And even as a
Mm-hmm.
kid, like my friends would be like, yo, check out our demo. We sound way better than we really do. And it was like, I heard about this guy over and over and over until we did a show with Viking Jesus. And somebody was like, that's George, right? And it was kind of like, really? That's the guy. Like, I already had a ton of albums in my collection that had his name on. So it kind of seemed like a natural choice. I started working with him in, I think, what was the first one I did with him? Give Up the Ghost, maybe? I think so. But he's done our last, this is our third release he's done for us now.
Nice.
And
First
I don't
time
know.
for me.
I don't really like going to the studio, so that's why I hit up him. I already know it'll be good.
Yeah. Nice. Well, I'd love to hear like what song are you most excited? I mean, the record's out, but like what song is your favorite? Like what would you shout out most and why for No Comfort?
I like the title track, partially because it grooves and it's got a little bit of a sound we didn't have before. I used my fingers a lot more on this album, and I think it reflected in the playing.
Like
But
finger style guitars?
yeah.
What you mean? Yeah. Okay.
But
Gotcha.
I think that song, like, the record has a weird vibe where it's really heavy and really mellow almost the whole way through, like at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that song sums up that vibe. Like, the whole album is kind of like mellow and heavy throughout, like spacey in a weird way. But I think it kind of sums up the general attitude. And again, No Comfort, like it's a very bluesy phrase.
For sure.
Yeah. How about you, Christopher? Which track is your favorite off of this one, and why?
I think No Comfort is definitely a easy pick, but Lizzy's Revenge for me, I think, is the song I spent the most time with and sort of like knocked into my head so much because of I'm a sucker for like heartbreak songs and just like really feely music, and also adding the guitar to that plus the drums, and kind of
That is Chris
feeling
on
like that was where
solo
we
guitar.
first started. Yep, I did the guitar solo on that one.
Which again is something new.
I feel like that's where me and Nick really started writing together, and I wasn't just like learning. Shout out to all the other adapter drummers. I had to learn all of your stuff.
Pretty much.
It was no easy task. Super high bar set. Much respect.
You're
But I
right,
felt
though.
like that was where I
Sounds
started
like
coming in with my feeling of how. So Lizzy's Revenge, I'm going to have to say that.
I don't think that was even going to be on the album, and you were kind of like, what are some other songs you have? And
It was going to be
I
like
remember
6
showing that
songs,
one to
and then
you,
we
and you
ended
were
up adding more.
really into it.
Yeah.
But it kind of
Yeah.
was like, I wasn't planning on doing it. And again, he was so enthusiastic about it. And it was funny too, like when we finished it, he sent me a video like, hey, I know we won't ever use it, but I wrote a guitar solo for this song. And it was like, well, we are going to use it then.
Yeah.
Like
He had asked me to send him some licks, like in like the key of D, that maybe just like to mess around with. And I was using that song as kind of that song's in D, so I can just kind of show you in your own music what you can apply to it, maybe. And
Chris is a good guitarist.
I got really enthusiastic about like the song, and it was just like, so I kind of put this together, and like maybe you could use that, and then it kind of ended up being every time I heard the song, like when that part came on, I would hear that guitar solo in my head, and Nick was like, dude, fucking record it, you know what I mean? So it's just like, cool.
And again, I think Lizzy's Revenge, like with being a reference sort of to Thin Lizzy, you have to have a guitar solo, right? Like you just have
to. Tribute to Thin Lizzy.
Perfect. Yeah, and I'll just quickly shout out Tell Me a Lie. I've been digging that one. I really like the feel of that one, and it's kind of what we're talking about earlier, that it just has a different
That's a fun one.
sound. Like it's kind of brought a couple of different things together, and it just...
It's a weird, heavy ballad. Everybody tells me it's a ballad.
Yeah, a lot of changes.
Most don't have
cool.
that much distortion.
Yeah.
There isn't a clean guitar anywhere on this album. But people tell me there's ballads on it, and I'm like, I guess you can write a ballad with a distortion.
Dirty ballads, man.
Yeah. But yeah, Lizzy's is awesome as well. So, but yeah, can you just remind people of where to pick up this record, all your other records, and pre-order the vinyl?
Go to our Bandcamp, adapter-band.bandcamp.com. We've kind of been focusing solely on Bandcamp so far. Like, to be honest,
great platform.
It's going to be on every format soon, but I've literally been holding it back because I want people to focus on the Bandcamp. And you can listen to it there. You can pre-order the record. We should have the records in a couple weeks. Nice. So probably by December, you'll be getting them or whatever. And then we'll have them at shows pretty soon, too. Yeah. It'll be here before we know it, I imagine.
Yeah. Can't wait.
You can hear it a lot of places. Rock Freaks from Germany, they have it on their channel in YouTube. Heavy Stoner Doom Blues have it on their channel. There was one from Spain. To be honest, we've been getting, like, that's kind of the weird thing, is it is getting listened to all over. I'm just kind of like, I'm telling
starting a little buzz.
Rhode Island got to start listening to it now, though.
Yeah. Come on, Rhode Island.
Yeah,
I love you.
This is the Rhode Island Shakedown, and I am shaking you down to buy my record. I've sold several copies to the Germans, so show them that you support your local blues musicians, I guess.
Definitely. And yeah, with that as well, you have a show coming up this Saturday, November 20th, with Mini Beast and
Mini Beast, dude. Whew.
Yeah. Nuts. And when I told him,
Mini Beast is incredible. That is a drummer right there. Oh my god, dude, I love that band.
That's pretty good. We always like playing at dusk, and we're going to be at a skew on the 28th with Camelo Pard. We have shows, like, we're working on stuff, we're doing stuff. It's just we're mostly focused on the record and the album. And again, part of this has taught me to just be myself in this regard, and I'm trying to apply that to where the band is leading and heading, and to have a more relaxed attitude and to have a bit more fun and have a good time, I guess.
Yeah, have fun, man. We gotta have fun. It's the blues.
Yeah.
The blues is so much fun.
There's a shirt right there. Gotta have fun. It's the blues, you know? So
right. Yeah, that's good.
Well, cool. Yeah, definitely recommend, following you on social medias. You can keep up with shows and other news and happening and stuff like that. So do that. And yes, Christopher and Nick, thank you for taking some time to, talk more about this record. It's
absolutely, man. Thank you.
Again, thanks to George and thanks to Jonathan Grimm, who did the artwork. He's really good. He's got a lot of amazing stuff for sale. So if you need anything, like again, I didn't even commission that. It was just something he put up, and it was like, wow. But he's got a lot of really great, really amazing stuff on there. And again, he'll help you through the process. So I can't really recommend him and George more. Like, they're two people who aren't in the band that had more of an effect on how this record came out than I could have imagined it would, I guess.
Totally, yeah. And it does seem to make sense. I mean, knowing a little bit of that history of what you've gone through, Nick, it was just also like, it seems to make sense.
It's good to have community and everyone helping each other out.
That it was just cool how it almost serendipitously kind of came together to have the record be what it is. It has a different message with that. So and
it wasn't easy. I think that's part of it too. Is the record was extremely challenging to make at different times. But at the end of it, I was just really pleased with it. And I think, again, like, risk reward, like, sometimes you kind of have to, you got to sweat and bleed a little to really make something happen that's worthwhile. And there are times where it's like, this is bad, and I don't know if I can actually do this. But when you get over the hump, or when you get to the top of the mountain and you can look down on it and see what you did, sometimes it's all worth it. And again, this is being a very personal record and putting it out there, I did feel like this was a huge weight to kind of lift off of myself, and not necessarily to just put on other people, but to put it out there in a way that deals with it positively. Because again, like, you can take a negative and make it a positive. 2 negatives make a positive. This album has 8 negatives, so it's like very positive.
So go listen to it. Yeah.
Listen to it and feel my pain in your heart. Take my pain from me. I give it to you. I will make you feel.
Well, yes, everyone go listen to No Comfort from Adapter. Go see them with Mini Beast and Songbirds this Saturday and at a skew and every other time they play. Go and support these guys.
And if you're looking for it on Spotify or iTunes, it'll be there soon. But for now, we'll check the Bandcamp, buy records, go to sites that actually pay the artists, because Spotify is not...
Bandcamp Fridays, dude.
Bandcamp Friday is a lifesaver.
Yeah. Nice. Well, I'll talk to you guys soon, all right?
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, man. Take care.
Bye. And thanks, everyone, for listening and watching. Talk to you soon.
Later.